Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Wherever you're joining us from, welcome to Let's Talk Gender Equality. Will it ever be a reality? We're so excited for those who just joined us live on our side event. This event is being hosted by a youth-led organization called Her Liberty, which Tikala Itai, is a founder of. But I am here in this side event as your moderator. And I'm so excited to be talking to amazing young professionals doing incredible work in Malawi here with us on our session, where we will just be having an informal conversation, really just hearing from their perspective on what does gender equality mean to them. Is it really a reality in Malawi? What are we missing? Is our policy the right direction, or should we be doing more on the ground? So we're going to be hearing from the different panelists today, just getting their opinions and expertise on this. But most importantly, I think, having young people being the next generation to be the ones to kind of define and design how gender equality should be put in place in Malawi is really exciting. And one key thing you should know, the reason why we're having this session today is because of the Generation Equality Forum. For those who don't know, in about the next few weeks, end of March and around June, there's going to be two big global meetings that will be happening around generation equality. A global commitment was put in place 25 years ago, now 26 years ago, called the Beijing Commitment on Gender Equality to advance issues around women and girls all over the world. And currently, the government of Malawi, the Ministry of Gender, is part of the Generation Equality Forum. They're going to be commitments that are going to be made around gender equality that will inform work and interventions in Malawi. So one of the reasons we're having this conversation is to kind of hear from different young people what their views are, that we can also take them forward to the Ministry of Gender in Malawi to see what they can do to do more for women and girls in Malawi. So we're excited to also be hearing from participants and attendees that are joining this live session to kind of also get your views that will also go forward towards giving inputs around the Generation Equality Forum that'll be happening, which the government of Malawi will be participating as well, specifically the Ministry of Gender. So excited, so much to talk about. But let's go right into it. I see a hand. Shalom, do you want to say something? Okay, maybe not. So we're gonna go right into introducing our panelists during this session. So I'm just gonna call out each panelist, and this is an opportunity, if you can switch on your video and just tell us a bit more of who you are and the work that you do. So first up, let's have Tendai.
Hi, Tikala. Hi, everyone. My name is Tendai Banda. I'm a young Malawian woman, youth development practitioner, Mandela Washington Fellow. I wish I could show my face, but we will show the faces as we go on, but just happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Tendai, and hopefully we will fix the technical issue to get everyone's videos going. So it's not intentional that only my video is showing right now, but hopefully we can get the panelists' videos going as well. Tendai, great to have you on the session. Gloria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tikala. My name is, oh, sorry. Let me switch to video now. I hope you can see me. Well, my name is Gloria Masala, working with Plan International as a project officer, as well as a youth focal point person for young people in Plan Malawi. And I work on projects to do with child marriages, teenage pregnancies, youth empowerment, and gender as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria, and I love the hair, really funky. And next up, we have Mac.
Hi, guys. My name is Mac Ndalama. I am a co-founder at Zaluso Arts. So Zaluso Arts, just to give a background, it started off as an art collective, and then later we became a creative hub in Lilongwe. Our goal is mainly to create pathways for young artists that are trying to have a career in the arts. So in doing that, we provide a vast range of services from traditional art to graphic design, film, and also we're very big about social impact. So us being in the social impact space has then put us on platforms such as the End Rape Consortium and other gender equality based projects. And so I guess that's why I'm here right now. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mac.
Yeah.
And it's not just only that because you're doing all these incredible stuff, but we know that Mac always has got good insight that I feel like need to be taken forward to the ministry agenda in terms of how do we improve issues around gender equality in general. So good to have you. We're going to move on to Vincent.
Thanks, Tikala. Let me switch on my video. Okay, that's me. So I'm Vincent Mwenda. I'm with MHub. I'm the Chief Executive Officer. MHub is a technology and innovation hub, emerging entrepreneurs with different resources that help them to build businesses that solve some of the social issues in Malawi. But more importantly, we also have programs that support women, more like women economic empowerment programs in technology, but also in entrepreneurship. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad that you're hosting this activity, and I have these young professionals that we're going to discuss this very important issue about gender equality, whether it's a reality or it can be a reality in Malawi and across the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Vincent. I think, you're a key person in this conversation, especially when we're talking about women empowerment and entrepreneurship. So I'm sure we're all keen to get more of your insight and your experience around this. And our last speaker is Elena.
Thank you, Tika. Hi, everyone. My name is Erina Masinga. I work a lot on issues to do with sexual reproductive health and HIV. I'm also a fashion designer, so I'm using art and fashion for social change, more specifically working so much on menstrual hygiene, production of reusable sanitary pads, as well as training. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. Gosh, we have a wide, diverse young people and young professionals, young leaders in our session. And, we're so keen to just really get your expertise around the different issues around gender equality. So this session is all about, gender equality, will it really ever be a reality? And I think the first thing that I want to hear from each and every one of you in the different work that you're doing, do you really feel like Malawi is making progress when we talk about gender equality? And two, when we say gender equality, do we really know what gender equality means? Let's start off with Mac. What's your view on this?
Well, Tikala, I don't appreciate being put on the spotlight like this. But look, I'm glad I went first because I'm here to learn. I feel like in the space where I exist, which is in the visual arts industry, there's a lot of guys. It's starting to look like a boys' club. So I think that the answers that will come out from that question from the other people might kind of give me a little more perspective. But I think that gender equality right now, especially in the art space, does not exist. However, I do see that there's a lot of efforts that are being made to kind of push female creators in the direction that they can also create at the same level and also be as marketable as everyone else. But I also do see that I think this might be a topic for later on in the conversation, but I see that, are we then giving them a loan, or are we saying that, look, we're gonna push you wherever you want to go, and so you're safe, and you can go beyond it. But I think that it's also important to kind of empower more than just throw opportunities at the disadvantaged gender in this situation. Yeah, that's what I have for now. I think I'll probably add on as the conversation goes.
You know, Mag, the first thing you said was, which was really interesting, was the whole, you know, it's starting to look like a boys' club in the arts kind of sector. Interesting terminology there, boys' club. Alina, you're being into the bit of the arts and the crafts and getting into fashion design. What's your view on that? What's your view? Do you really think it's looking like a boys' club, as Mac put it?
I think it depends on what kind of sector in terms of the arts and fashion design. But then I think if you look into the other aspects and textile, I think women are also taking lead. I think we're at that point whereby women are also getting empowered. There is this empowerment whereby they're standing up, claiming their roles and taking their position. So I think there's a really big change in the arts and fashion industry a little bit. The only difference is, as I said, it depends on which sector. So I think for the visual, he's right, because if you look at the visual, it's more of the guys. But then when you go to the outfit, I don't know if it's because we love dressing and stuff, but then if you go into the fashion and textile, women are really taking charge. You're seeing a lot of women opening up businesses, becoming entrepreneurs, voicing out more of their rights in terms of business and entrepreneurship. So I think there's a big stride that has been made. Yeah.
Interesting, Alina. So we're seeing that there's more women coming out and, you know, taking roles when it comes to textiles and fashion design in terms of clothing. And you brought in something interesting around, you were touching issues around entrepreneurship and women empowerment. And Vincent, I want to bring you into this conversation. You know, as a person who's been leading different opportunities with MHub around women empowerment and entrepreneurship opportunities, do you really feel women are taking advantage of these opportunities to start their own business or to grow their own businesses when it comes to women entrepreneurship?
From multiple angles. First of all, I think this is a question that we encountered when MHub was just starting, I think around 2014, 2015, because we are in the technology space. And when we were mobilizing people to support or to join our programs, we do not find a lot of young women who were interested in the space. So we had to sit down as a hub to come up with specific programs that targeted young women who are interested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we had to be very intentional in our programming. And then as we have been growing as a hub, we've also opened up a little bit more activities in terms of women economic empowerment. But I'm glad to report that we've seen a lot of uptake in terms of the programs that we're pushing, women economic empowerment programs. There are a lot of young girls who are interested now to take up science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, or even to start businesses. And it's not just about the numbers, it's even the quality of the businesses that the women that we are supporting are bringing out at the end of the day. I can give you an example. There's a program that we're running with support from UNDP called Growth Accelerator. For 2 years running, we've had over 60% of the participants coming from women entrepreneurs compared to male entrepreneurs. So it shows that there's a lot. I think if women are supported, if opportunities are out there, women are willing to take up those opportunities and even run with them. I can also handle this from a leadership position, from an institutional position. So at a corporate level, one need to understand that we need to support women to be in more decision-making positions to also be in control of capital. Because the way I look at it, if women are involved in different activities, they're empowered and they're part of the corporate radar, what we get is more collaboration. It's not just about the numbers, we get more collaboration. We've seen increased innovation, and there's greater productivity because everyone else is involved in decision making, and everyone else is involved maybe in controlling capital investments, and then at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. I think let me stop there for now.
Thank you, Vince. For those who are listening in and hearing in, I mean, there are opportunities being shared here. The Growth Accelerator by MHub, I think definitely a good initiative to encourage women to get into entrepreneurship. We're going to come back and just hear more on just some of the perspectives you're sharing. You know, Vincent brought up issues around decision making, right, and control of capital and so forth. And I'm keen to hear from Tendai and Gloria as two phenomenal young women and young leaders and advocates in you know, issues around youth, women and girls. Tendai, I want to hear from you. Do you really feel like, looking at even the Malawi culture itself, that is it possible for women to truly have control of finances? Let's start from the home and then looking into the community and then looking into even running a business. Do you really think it's a reality that women can have control of finances?
Okay, thank you so much, Tikala. So I think to tackle that, I guess I'll bring back to our policy, the gender policy. How are we defining gender? I wanted us to kind of start there, like how are we defining gender equality? So basically it's saying that the concept that all human beings are free to develop their personal abilities and make choices without the limitations set by stereotypes, rigid gender roles, or prejudices. So I was saying that, you know, when it comes to, you know, can we say that as Malawi we are there, that women have all these like power in choices? I don't think we are there yet, but we are seeing that there's at least there's some in terms of progress when it comes to women. If you can look at things like savings, village bank, right? Bank and Konde, women are actually getting involved a lot in those things. But studies are also showing that sometimes you don't have to stop at saying, okay, are women having access to the money or access to credit or something like that? We have to go to the home. When they go back home, who is in charge of that? So I would say that it's a bit multifaceted, but what we can see is actually there are a lot of CSOs, I would say organizations who have opened up to say we are targeting women because we know, like learning from past experiences, for example, like the Grameen example, the Grameen Bank by I think there was that gentleman called Yunus, if I'm not wrong. So he saw that women were very good at savings and women were had this potential of actually turning things around when it comes to money. So that experiment worked well, and we should really start getting our lessons from there. But we should know that it's more, it doesn't stop at just giving the credit. It doesn't just stop at giving women these opportunities. It has to go beyond what happens in the home, and which I think for now, I would say, we haven't yet gotten to understand what happens in the home, because in our society, that's what happens in the home is, you know, it has to stay in the home. It's not having to go out. So I guess we have to start looking now at how can we, you know, get into those conversations, but without also, you know, stepping on, you know, other things which, you know, as a society we face a bit of too much backlash. But we have to be very creative in terms of the things that are there, the opportunities that are there. What can we do to make sure that women are actually saying, after I've accessed this loan, let me have a choice in terms of how we're going to use this money. How am I going to develop myself using this money as well? Over. Thank you.
Tendai, well said. And I really agree with you in terms of, you know, we should be looking at what is happening in the home, right? And Gloria, as a person who's been doing a lot of work in different communities, I think we all have seen, you know, the issue of culture. I think a lot of young women can also relate where, you know, you grow up and you know that, oh, my woman's role, I need to be in the kitchen, I need to cook. You know, as you're growing up, you're never really thinking of, oh, I want to go run a business, I want to go start this entrepreneurship project. All you're thinking is when you're growing up in your teenage years or even earlier than that, is, hey, you know, let me go wash the dishes, let me go do this. As a woman, this is my role. I feel like all these kind of gender identities are already placed on you as a woman, that sometimes it takes a lot to start thinking about, oh, I can actually run a business, or I can be more than just that girl who wakes up and needs to clean the house and make food in the house, and all these kind of cultural traits that in the Malawi culture we still have. And Gloria, I'm curious to hear from you as someone who's really been in the community and issues of culture. Do you really think we can get to where we need to be when we say gender equality and woman empowerment, when we have these kind of cultural values still instilled within Malawi?
Well, thank you so much, Tikala. Well, I think with my experience, I feel like our culture has contributed a lot to us not being able to get to where we want to be when it comes to gender equality. Like, I'll just give you an example of what I observed over the past 2 years on the project that I was working on. So there was a project whereby we were recruiting young people, boys and girls. Particularly, we were saying a larger percentage of them has to be girls. So to go for a vocational skills training. So we wanted them to be empowered, like they're going through that training, and then after the training, they're going to get startup capital, and then they're going to be able to start small businesses on their own. Most of them were girls that previously got married before at a younger age, or girls that were just impregnated. But then, even during the recruitment process, we had a lot of girls that came. We had a specific number of girls that we wanted to recruit. So when we had engagements with them, you know, like when we give them opportunities, like we were saying, okay, so you're confirmed, you're about to go for this training. And then they'll be like, oh, I need to go back home. I need to tell my husband, or I need to discuss this with my boyfriend. I have a man, so I cannot, like, they couldn't be able to make decisions on their own in terms of something that, okay, I want to go and study, probably maybe get trained in tailoring, but I cannot do that until my husband says so, or until, okay, the man I'm staying with says so. So like they went back home, and then they will come back and say, I cannot go. Why? Because my husband doesn't think I need to go. Probably maybe because the husband was just insecure that, okay, so my woman is going to get trained, and then she comes back, and then she'll have more money than me, and that means she is more superior than I am. And there was also an issue whereby they got trained, and then they come back. Now, it was their business, but they were not fully managing it because they have a man at home, and he's the one that was actually managing it. Even the VS and L groups. Yes, we were saying women are taking part, they were part of the village savings and loan groups. But when it comes to actually managing the finances that were coming, it was the men behind. So it's more like they were just using the women as the picture to go through their VS and L groups, or probably maybe to go get trained. But when they go back home, we're still going back to the same, like, okay, so I need to respect my husband as a woman, I need to be submissive to my husband. It means they didn't really have full control of the finances or anything that was happening in their life. It was more of, okay, so my husband will tell me, go get a loan. Most of them even got in huge loans because of their husbands. Like, okay, so go and get this loan, and then they'll come back home, because it's more like my husband says I need to do this, so I can do it. There were only a few of them that on their own, like, because it really took much effort. Like when it comes to there was community engagements or dialogues that were happening involving both men and women, trying to also empower them, trying to change their mindset, so that men also needed to understand to letting women take control of their finances. But that was still, you know, like they would be like, no, here, as a woman, my culture doesn't allow me probably to be on top of my husband. Like, okay, I cannot make decisions without my husband being involved. If I want to do this, it means the husband has to decide what the woman should do. So I really feel like culture really plays a huge role when it comes to gender equality, and we really need to put in a lot of effort if we want to achieve gender equality in Malawi, especially in the rural areas. There's still a lot of work that we're supposed to do. But yeah, I think I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Gloria, you brought in like real on the ground experience on what's going on when it comes to opportunities and women empowerment programs in terms of, are we really truly empowering the woman, or are men using women to get the resources that are out there and opportunities out there for themselves? And I think with just what you shared, the big issue here is just culture. How do we address this big issue around culture? And just to move on and get another perspective from the panelists, and then we're going to move on to just hear from some of our attendees. We want to hear from our attendees, any comments you have, any views around in terms of how do we make gender equality really a reality in Malawi. So I'm going to move to Vincent, back to you, Vincent, right? So we've been hearing issues of culture as a barrier, especially when it comes to women controlling finances at a household level. And, just to hear from you and the amazing progress you have had to get women to kind of step out and to grab these opportunities, do you feel like within the entrepreneurship and business sector, there needs to be some sort of policy in place at a national level to ensure that we're able to protect women when they get into business where there isn't control from a man within the household, whether if the woman starts the business, if the profit she's making, protecting her from a man trying to control those resources she's making? Do you really feel like there are proper measures in place to protect a woman who is venturing into her own business, especially at a rural level?
So for us to achieve like total gender equality, it will not happen by accident. I think we need to make like serious commitments and concrete achievements. So the first thing that I think is that we need to make significant structural changes in the way we do things in the country. Like I'm talking about maybe gender-focused policy at workplaces, and ensure that there's equal access to skills and opportunities, infrastructure. So as much as culture is an issue, but there's some things that are driven by maybe access to opportunities. For example, I think what Gloria is sharing here is also talking about, it might be women economic empowerment opportunities, but there might also be other mindset change opportunities, maybe access to proper education, access to proper decision-making, understanding the role of maybe a husband, the role of a wife in marriage, and all those things. If we are intentionally equipping our young women and our young men to understand these issues, they will grow up with that idea that this is how we handle women, this is how we handle income as a family, this is how we address such issues. And at corporate level, I'm also looking at to see like a clear transfer of decision and the center of power. I think we've concentrated more on men taking lead as a center of power in what we're doing. So companies have to be very intentional, even communities have to be very intentional in terms of coming up with gender-enabled policies, gender-enabled infrastructure, and even proper representation at different levels, even at ATC level, or so ATC would be like area development committee level, village development committee level. We should have even women representation at that level. And we should also be looking at, so I'll give an example of one of the programs that we're running with support from UN Women. We're training about 50 cooperatives across the country, women-led cooperatives. So some of the cooperatives would have 100 women and maybe 3 men. And then out of the 3 men that are there, we find that the 3 men are taking up maybe executive positions within the cooperative. That is 100 plus women. So in our training, we go beyond just building a business or setting up a business. We also help them to a kind of decision, to be making decisions as women leading these cooperatives. So when they're empowered, the idea is that if they're empowered and they have control over finances, they can improve their lives. They can also contribute to what is happening in the family. How do we spend this money? On which things should we spend this money, and how do we give back this money? So that empowerment comes in from the training that we're providing, At the same time, we also believe that if they're empowered economically and they're empowered in decision making, they can also take up other positions, even political positions, even village running positions. But sometimes it all starts from economic empowerment. Sometimes people can't speak because they're not in control of money, and only those people who control the pace have a say in a setup. So if women are also in control of the pace, they can take up positions even in communities, become village heads, become even community leaders that eventually would champion the changing of the policies, even at policy level, even bylaws in communities. If we have more women representation, then they can also take charge. They can scrutinize some of the policies that are coming up to say, oh, but we're not considering women in this setup, in this development activity. We're not considering the role that women play. So I'm thinking that as a country, we've made significant progress in making sure that everyone else understands gender equality, but we're still lagging behind in terms of making structural and significant changes that at the end of the day, my thinking, to me, gender equality will only be reached when we level the ground. Everyone else is competing at skills, at opportunities, and we may not even need to push women. We may not even need to empower anyone because the empowerment is enabled. Everyone else is competing on free ground, and maybe we'll move on to merit rather than maybe focus on empowerment. Thank you.
Wow, Vincent, you said, yeah, I don't know if everyone
yes, that's true.
And I just that was really powerful what Vincent said, that, sometimes we really need to be looking at these structural changes that need to happen. And I think as you even just shared with the work that you're doing, supported by UN Women with the different women cooperatives, and how even though it's just 3 men, but then the leadership position is still being pushed to men. And there's just a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think even being able to document best practices like yours is like a good starting point for key ministries and government ministries to start looking at, what's working, what's not working. The people who are doing work on the ground, especially around issues of gender equality, I think trying to take these lessons up on top and trying to figure out how do we bring in the key structure changes that will address the deep-rooted issues as well. But very powerfully said there, Vincent. And I'm keen to go back. Tendai, you reacted, so I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes, I did. So basically, just to add on what Vincent has said, I actually think that we have an opportunity when it comes to the young people, which, I mean, all our policies are saying, young people are the future. They are a big part of the population. I think we can actually leverage that resource to help us when it comes to gender equality. I feel like there's a lot that our education system can continue doing when it comes to, educating the future generation. The future generation, if they learn that, oh, actually a woman can do what a man can do, then when they are building the future Malawi, they will be able to say, guys, let's actually give equal opportunities to each other. Because when it comes to even making decisions, either a man or a woman is going to make these decisions, but we need a man and woman who is gender sensitive, who knows what they are doing, so that there's no gender bias or something like that. We also need to consider the data. I feel like every year in just trying to say, okay, so where are we on gender equality? Are we getting there or not? I feel like we are not doing ourselves justice. We should be able to say, last year, how many women CEOs did we have? How many women were in power, were in leadership? When it comes to this year, where are we now? So I feel like doing that is actually very powerful. Even if we go to an example of how, a lot of gender CSOs consortium, the 50-50 campaign, I feel like they did a very powerful campaign when it came to the board appointments. They were able to use the data to say, out of this amount of appointments, only maybe 10% are women, only 20% are women. By doing that, I feel like you're powerful because you are presenting your case, right? You're like, these are the facts, and facts should be facts. Nobody can come and say, oh, you know what, this doesn't work. So I feel like we need to cement our arguments with data. And also, we can't run away from the law. We still need to level the law. It was interesting when I was doing my research for this. I came across the World Bank's 2019 Women Business and the Law Index, which actually showed that Malawi was one of the countries which had enacted a lot of laws to do with discriminatory action against women. So they were saying, oh, actually Malawi has done well, but still more that needs to trickle to action. So we have new leadership, they have an opportunity to actually say, we want to advance gender equality, and we're going to use these laws that we have enacted to say, now that the laws are there, let they not just stand. And maybe if I would finish, I would also say that we need to actually continue hailing women. I think I was happy with the conference that they were able to, acknowledge two women, Emma Kalia and Martha Chizuma. These are not ordinary women. And when we see them, we're like, oh my gosh, I can do it. I can be like them. We need to do more of that, because that also helps when it comes to role modeling, and encourage, more women who are in roles which were not traditionally perceived for women. When we, put those across, it's not only women who are seeing that women can do it. Men are also seeing to say, oh, actually, this gender equality is a good thing. Let's promote it. And yeah, maybe let me stop there when it comes to the reaction. Thank you.
Thanks, Tendai. And I think you bringing up issues of the law, it's good to have good laws and policies, but when there's no, implementation, enforcement of these things, and if you're not really seeing change on the ground, there's clearly something that we're not doing right. And I think, as Vincent had said, those structural changes that need to be put in place to ensure that we're actually enforcing these amazing laws and stuff and policies that are already there. So I'm going to open it up quickly to the attendees in about 5 minutes. I'm going to quickly just turn to Mac, because Mac, I know you're dying to say something. So go for it.
Yeah, so I've been listening to what Vincent said, and also what Tendai added on to say. And the thing that, and also just attending this conference in general, the thing that I think keeps popping up is a knowledge-based sort of level in terms of gender equality, where people are talking about the need to let people know that, women are also just as equal as men, and yada, yada, yada. But my thing is, I think that if you go to the most rural places in Malawi, someone somewhere has heard of gender equality, and they will tell you that they know about gender equality. Because I think in Chichewa, they'll just be like, Pajaguli gender, they'll just call it gender. But that the knowledge is there, right? So I think that we're a bit shallow if we keep talking about the knowledge behind gender equality when we don't take any action at all. So there was a project I was working on, which was, not about this. It was, I think, about hygiene, where everyone knows about the importance to wash your hands, but there are no activities that are making these people take an active role into actually doing the practice. They'll still go to the bathroom and then leave and forget to wash their hands, because there's nothing that's reminding them to have that as solidified in their brain to say, Kudi, this is how things should be. That's why you see even Tendai said that on paper, Malawi might look like it's doing pretty well. The policies are there, everything is drafted out, the knowledge is there. But then what are we really doing? What is the country doing? Let's look at, I think there was a lot of tension when the new government came in place in terms of like leadership roles between men and women and things like that. So those are now the actions that are supposed to prove or sort of show that we're actually following the policies that we sign up for. So maybe like it's up to us to start from a grassroots level, where we say that, look, we make proper commitments and we're checked on them and we act upon them. Otherwise, we can keep talking for years. Because look, International Women's Day has been there since 2015. It's only, it seems that people are only talking about it now, and they're still talking, and they could continue talking for the next 20 years. But when are we actually going to act? What are the activities that we're actually taking or committing towards taking so that things actually change? That's all I wanted to say as of now.
Mac, I mean, that's all you have to say, but very powerful things you're saying here, because it's the knowledge is truly there, but you're really not seeing like concrete changes, you'd say. I mean, like there has been progress in terms of we're seeing more women in leadership position. I mean, we were all excited when we saw the Speaker of Parliament to being a woman, and there's like little progress that's being done, but I think there's things even at a very local, rural level that I think we're abandoning. And Vincent touched a bit on that as well as Gloria. And I think maybe that could also be trying to look into more of the bottom-up approach and trying to see how do we ensure that this knowledge actually becomes something that people are practicing. But very valid points there. I'm going to give it to Alina and Gloria to just quickly add on, and then I'm going to open it up to attendees to just also share. Let's start off with Alina. Mac was saying something about hygiene, and I know you do amazing work about menstrual hygiene issues. And I know in Malawi, there's been issues where people have been trying so hard to get pads for girls to be free. The same way condoms are free, to get pads for girls and women to be free, because it's a necessity. And this is also some of the key issues when we talk about gender equality, right? But yeah, what is your view, especially someone who's doing a lot of work around menstrual hygiene?
I think on that part, there's been a great progress, because I think we're looking at some of the gaps in gender equality. And I think some of the gaps were male involvement in most of the projects we do regarding gender equality. And looking at the culture, the taboos on menstrual hygiene, I think we've just focused it on the aunties and the girls. But I think greatly we realized that involving the, taking men as male champions has helped to add value. I think several projects that have trained girls, we try to include the male perspective, and then the output was great. We had male voicing out the rights for the girls, advocating for the girls. So I think by the end of the day, if we're doing gender-related projects, equality stuff, we have to involve the males. I know women still have to be on the forefront, but having that component of males, understanding what really is happening, understanding the roles they have to play in order to protect a woman, to empower a woman, I think it will really be great. And this also reminds me on something that someone said at one of the meetings I was attending. He said that, okay, so what happens? We're empowering women, but how sure are we that we have males who are ready to handle empowered women? Because we might have more empowered women, but then by the end of the day, we're not getting the men ready for that empowered women. So this goes back to the same thing of male involvement. Men have to know the importance of gender equality. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add on.
Alina, well said. I think, male involvement has been some of the key things that I'm seeing a lot of NGOs with work that they're doing, they're really trying to incorporate male involvement. But I think the key thing also to kind of get us to keep thinking is that, yes, male will be involved in some of these initiatives, but the key question is, are we truly changing mindsets? Because I've been in a lot of spaces where I'm working with someone working for some institution and they're leading issues around gender, but yet that same person is saying things that are insulting to me, for example, or remarks that are very inappropriate, So you also start thinking to yourself that, yeah, we're involving male, but are we also truly changing certain mindsets and little things that I think and practices that have been accepted also in society. And just in terms of example, I was talking to someone yesterday who said, will it ever end where if women are walking down the road and a guy's like, I say, hey, sweetie, come here. Little small things like that. Someone was like, are we really going to get gender equality if we can't even change a man's mindset who, if I'm just walking down the street, minding my own business, and he's calling me or sexually harassing me just because I'm a woman? So I think sometimes, yes, we may have male involvement, but there's still those small little issues where we're saying, really is about a mindset shift as well, and how we really change the internal kind of cultures and things people have accepted to be okay among, men as well. So Gloria, your last few remarks, and then I'm going to get the attendees to just chip in and share their views, comment, and questions.
Well, the good thing about being the last person is everybody else that has spoken before you might have exhausted everything that you add. But for me, I think the emphasis, I was just going to say, even we have to really put in a lot of work when it comes to changing mindset, because even the people that we think are most educated, their understanding of gender equality, when it comes to gender equality, they will be it's more of something, it's just something to do with women. No, it can be, a man cannot be involved. It's more like a competition between men and women. But just probably helping everyone understand that gender equality, it's not a competition between a man and woman. We're just trying to fight that men and women should be at the same level. So if people understand what gender, because as much as we might say people understand, but people don't really understand the whole concept when it comes to gender equality. They will think because it's whenever it's mentioned, Mark said, there's gender, like whenever everything is involved, because if you want to involve women, isn't that gender, or this is gender related, because a woman is associated there. But I think we need to really put in a lot of effort to change mindset of people, both even in urban and rural areas. And like we're saying, I mean, if we can even advocate more when it comes to maybe introduction of gender concept in schools, like the way they're introducing comprehensive sexuality education. It has to also start from that level going up, because if they are probably also taught in schools, also help, they need to also understand that a boy and a girl are the same, and presenting same opportunities, that more or less like starting from the grassroots or starting from a younger age. As they're growing up, they will understand, even being husbands, they need to also understand their role as a husband in empowering their women, and also women understanding, because also maybe one of the things that has been a challenge is because if we empower a woman, men will say women become rude or they become disrespectful. And those are the things that people compete with. But I think if we just also help to understand that each one has a role to play towards all this that we're trying to achieve gender equality, doesn't mean if a woman is empowered, it doesn't mean a man will become disempowered. But if they're both empowered, at least, I mean, we're going to achieve great things by empowering both of them. So for me, I think we really need to put in a lot of effort towards mindset changing, as well as let's continue involving men. Because I think, like Elena said, most of the projects previously, they were saying maybe 40% men, 60% women, or 30% men, 60% women. But most of the times it was largely dominated by women, and the men were being left behind. Now I think that it has come to a realization that, oh, we need also to involve men. Men needs also to feel involved in all this that we're doing. If we really want to achieve gender equality, we cannot just be involving women, but also men have to also be involved at the same time. So I guess for me, those are the two comments that I wanted to put in. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Well said. And I'm just, seeing a comment here that came in from one of the attendees. Faith says, great point, Alina. Men as gatekeepers to many institutions need to be brought into the conversation. So, still on to ensuring that, men are really brought into these conversations, are really involved in these issues, that it's not just, oh, gender, it's a woman thing, but gender also affects men as well, and they need to be involved in some of these key conversations and interventions that are being led and implemented. So I'm going to open it up to the attendees. If you have any comments or any questions or anything you want to share, we're also happy to hear your perspective as well. Please feel free to kind of type it in, comment, and share your views. As attendees are doing that, I'm also open to any of the panelists, if there's anything else you want to share about some of the key things that we've been sharing, feel free to also do that. But for now, attendees, yeah, feel free to share some comments and views. We want to hear from you too. Vincent, you can come in. I see, as we wait for attendees to type in some comments or questions. Vincent, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for recognizing me. I just wanted to emphasize on the importance of the role that our generation is playing. If we were very critical, this generation, I'm happy that we are all young people here. We're very critical to achieving gender equality in Malawi. There are multiple ways. So the first way is the way we are treating our wives in our homes, our girlfriends, our female friends. There's a lot that we're communicating in the way we're treating our wives out there. We may not be intentional at what we do, but then I think there's a message that we're pushing out there, even as activists, as leaders, and all those things. The second thing is the way we are raising our kids. We need to be very intentional, the way we treat the male child and the female child. and the message that we're sending to them. Everything else has to be something that is in line with gender equity. And the last thing is, as we are climbing the corporate ladder, some of us are being given very important positions in our jobs. We need to take this fire there in making sure that we're pushing policies, we're pushing laws, we're pushing infrastructure and everything else that at least addresses gender equality, because it should not just be talk, it should not just be something that we're just excited about talking about as activists. We should take this fire somewhere else. Some of us will become politicians that who have like very important positions in society. So we need to take this, and maybe our former generations were not able to achieve equality, but it's now the onus is on us. We will not have an excuse. We need to take it forward. So I just wanted to communicate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Sorry, I kind of muted there, but thanks so much. I think you brought in such valid points, and I was just feeling like, oh my goodness, I feel like, you know, those are the key remarks, closing remarks, and we should just end off there. But Vincent, I think you really did bring in something where you're saying, as our generation, you know, what can we do, especially in the different workspaces that we're all engaging in or working in, whether it's within school or whether it's in whatever sector we're working in, whatever organization or whatever business we're operating. What are we applying? You know, how are we putting in the right policies and practices to ensure that we advance these key issues when it comes to gender equality? So Vincent, well said there. I'm just checking here. So we have here we have a comment from Willard. Willard is saying discussion on gender equality should also go beyond talking about space. Rather should talk about resources too. People in realms of power should consider gender responsive resource allocation and service delivery, so that initiatives should be gender enabled to eliminate competition between men and women. I'm going to throw that to the panelists, and you know, if you feel like you want to share some reflections to that. But Willard, I think you know, a key thing there is this gender responsive resource allocation is something that is really, really missing, and you know, trying to figure out what can we do, especially whether if it's in the Ministry of Gender. I think one thing I've noticed about the Ministry of Gender is it's one of the ministries that is underfunded, and recognizing that gender equality should be mainstream in different sectors. You know, it starts from even recognizing that a ministry like Ministry of Gender should be highly funded to ensure that we're bringing in these kind of gender response policies within different sectors as well. And then we have another comment here from an anonymous attendee who says, how do we get more women to lean in, especially in situations where structures are in place to support them, however, they do not take advantage of the platform or opportunity? Panelists,
I would
say something.
Yeah, I would love to take that one. Actually, it was interesting that I think I kind of, when I was preparing for this, I read about a lot of things and came across some things which I was like, oh, really? Like there was this other discussion that women were having. And then what they were saying is, for example, like an organization, it's called a company, I should say, Hewlett-Packard. I think it's if it's not in the UK, it's in the United States. But they were saying that what they had found out was, like, they were also having that conversation. There are these, it was only males who were actually advancing to managerial roles. So they were asking themselves, why is it the case? And then they decided to do a survey. And actually what the survey showed is women only apply to positions when they feel like they have at least about 60% of, 100% of the requirements. Well, for most men, it was that when they had half the requirements for that position, they would still apply. So, you know, what they were saying was, it's actually, it's more complicated than just leaning in. For women, it becomes with the confidence, to feel even confident to say, I can go for this job, is actually a deeper process than we think. So when it comes to saying leaning, I think institutions should have to put in, put in more when it comes to encouraging women to apply for these roles. It could be about supervisors. If you have a supervisor, they should be able to say, okay, you as a woman, you can be able to do this. I'll give you an example. For example, when I was doing my my research internship at Center for Social Research, so there was this, my supervisor was a guy, Dr. Montali. So we would apply for these grants. And then what he saw was, I see something in you. Actually, I want you to, because there were types of levels of which you would be positions, I should say, positions in the research team. So he said, you know what, I think you should attain a master's degree, because for you to be able to get to the level that I want you to be, you have to do this master's degree. I was like, oh, okay, sure. I did it. And then he actually went on to say, can you apply for this? And I got it. So I think we need more of those, like, push. For other women, it's going to take a push. For other women, it's going to take just a word of mouth to say, there's this thing that you have to apply. They are going to apply. So we have to also look at, when it comes to women empowerment, it takes different forms. Nothing which works for one woman is going to work for all women. We are diverse people. So yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to say. Over.
Thanks, Tendai. It really is a push from all angles to ensure that women are leaning in and are taking advantage of those opportunities that are out there. But most importantly, how do we ensure that the opportunities are there, but the support is also there to ensure that women grab those opportunities? I'm saying we only have 2 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it to the panelists with just each person with just 30 seconds to just say, one concrete recommendation that should be taken forward for this big generation equality forum that will be where we'll have the Ministry of Gender, the government that's taking up commitments that will be made around gender equality. And in 30 seconds, what would be that one concrete commitment you think should be made for Malawi and the government of Malawi around gender equality? Let's start with Mac.
Wow. One concrete. I think that we should try and, okay, so a little background. In the art sector, there's a lot of lack of resources, in the sense that the resources are very expensive to get your hands on and stuff like that. So all the money is with the men, economically speaking. So I think that the government might want to place more emphasis on getting women to have access to resources for them to progress as artists and practitioners in even other fields. Yeah, 30 seconds. Did I get that?
You went slightly more, but it was still good. Access to resources for all women in different sectors.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. That's mine.
Gloria, what's your concrete commitment that should be taken forward?
Okay, so for me, I would just say there is need for a more coordinated effort when it comes to achieving gender equality in all sectors. You talk of policies. Policies need to speak to each other. So we need to coordinate civil society organizations. We don't need to work independently. So there's need for, I can just say, coordinated effort across.
Well said, because there is a lot of work in the gender space where people are working in silos. So improve coordination, enhance coordination when it comes to issues of gender equality. Moving on to you, Elena. You're on mute, Elena.
All right, sorry about that. Okay, I think I'm being taken back to the gaps, like what can we do differently? So I think right now we're talking more of innovation, we're talking more of sustainable development goals. I think it's time we become more creative on what else can we use. And we're looking so much on like behavior change. And one of the challenges I think is leaning back to culture behaviors, culture beliefs. So I think even if we focus much on like mental intelligence, I think like the MDF, I think they have different sessions on mental intelligence. I think even if we can broaden that aspect, bringing sessions on that, maybe we can make a different stride. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alina. Doing more around behavior change and issues of culture. Tendai, what's your concrete commitment?
I guess I'll share for myself and maybe something that higher level people can consider. So for me, is exposing more women to opportunities for self-development and education, because I've seen wonders of what education can do when it comes to building confidence in women, and also making sure that they are ready to take on any opportunity that is given to them. So when it comes to high level people, I would say more investment in gender sensitive education will go a long way. Education is a great resource. I would say that a majority of people will at least attain a minimal standard of education. So even from primary school, if we start breaking the stereotypes through education, we'll be able to go a long way. And trust me, these things will be it will be absorbed even as quicker as we didn't dream of. So women can do it, but let's break the stereotypes as we're starting with our education system. Thank you.
Someone who's definitely a champion around advancing education, Tendai, key thing around improving education opportunities and advancement of women and girls. Who am I missing? Vincent.
Yeah, I'll go to the basic unit of society, the family. Because I think some of the issues that we face, the family has got a lot of influence in what we're doing. Sometimes some of these programs, the structure changes that we're talking about, we target young women or young men who have already been spoiled in the families, and their opinions are already made, and sometimes it's difficult for them to kind of form an opinion beyond what they learned in the family. As we all know, there are no institutions that support how people run families, how they treat male or female children. I think it's important that we should focus on the family, how best we can develop families to understand the importance of gender equality at a low level, that when they grow up, I think they should be able to understand what they're doing and how they can contribute to society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vincent, and thank you to each and every one of you and all the panelists and the attendees that joined this discussion. And this should just not only be a discussion. I'm hoping that some of the key things that each and every one of us have said, that we can take a lead role in advancing gender equality in whatever spaces and sectors we're in. I think to all the attendees, I want to end off with just a comment that came through from Pampelo Bando, who said, "Male inclusion in gender program is essential, but let's all thrive not to depict men as saviors, but as allies and equal partners. And being equal partners, let's run away from the simplistic narrative of women being victims and men being perpetrators." Thank you so much, Pampero. Well said on that comment. And let's continue this conversation, and not only conversation, but action, and making gender equality a reality. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, panelists. Thank you, everyone, for joining the session.
Thank you for having us.
Guys, before you go, put your videos on. I want to take a picture for the panelists and everyone. Okay, wait, let me get my camera on. How do people do this? Oh, I need to do the gallery view. Wait.
Wow. So Gloria, how do you drive and Zoom at the same time?
I am not driving. I'm with a work colleague. Let me just remove my mask.
So that you can give the work colleague
Okay, I'm
your
taking
mask.
the picture. Vincent, you're looking a bit dark.